Disney Pixar A Bug's Life for the PS1 is a game I didn't quite get at first. It just seemed like a game that should be better than it actually is, but then it kind of grew on me. The reason I didn't like it at first is because it seemed confusing. I mean, it seems like a normal 3D platformer. That's fine, jumping and throwing things at enemy or butt stumping enemies. But in the tutorial level, there's also this confusing thing where you have to pick up these seeds and then you have to throw them, and then these sproutlings would grow out of the ground or whatever, and you have to jump on them and stand upside down on them and change their color. And depending on what you change their color to, a special thing will grow out of the ground that will help you progress in the level. Like a leaf that's a platform, or like a mushroom that's a bouncy thing. There's also like different types of berries, and some berries are stronger than others, which means the weaker berries don't work on really tough enemies. So you pretty much can't defeat some enemies unless you find a more powerful berry. And the levels can be pretty confusing if you want to pick up everything in the level. It can be downright a maze. And all of this really got me disappointed in the game. But then, after playing for a while, I realized it's really not that hard. I mean, sure, if you want to pick up everything in the game, it can be difficult. The level can be absolutely confusing. But if you just want to run through the level and only pick up things that are like on the way to the end of the level, it's not confusing at all. You rarely have to swing on vines. You just like follow a little pathway. It's pretty easy actually to get to the end of each level. It gets a little harder in terms of the seed aspect of the game, where you have to constantly change these sproutling colors and grow new things on the ground so you can progress, like a leaf or a bouncy mushroom. But these things aren't like everywhere. You only need to do these things in very specific parts of the game, and it's pretty obvious where you need to do them. Most of the time, it's a place you can't jump to. If there's like a little hill that you clearly can't jump to, run around and look for a seed and just throw a seed next to the hill and grow something that'll help you. The confusing aspects are things I mastered in a couple of minutes, and I got over it. And what was left is just a fun, charming, colorful 3D platformer with fairly decent gameplay. There's a lot of levels. The levels are pretty big. There's boss enemies and regular add-ons. There's a big selection of different enemies, like different types of bugs, larvae. The graphics are good looking for the most part, but I don't like the graphics of like the ground. Like the particles in the ground and in the walls, they look pretty lazy. It just looks like little rock pebbles, but they're like drawn onto the ground. It's like all flat, completely flat. They drew little pebbles, but the pebbles look like they're just part of a painting. The ground and walls are not very aesthetic. Most enemies have the same exact strategy, whether it's like a larvae that's crawling on the ground, a bug flying up in the air, you just throw fruit at them. And it's pretty much the same thing with bosses, they just take more hits. The point of the game is basically to follow the movie. In fact, much like every other Disney or Pixar game I've reviewed, the cutscenes in the game are just snippets from the movie. There's variation in the gameplay as well. I mean, most of the time it is running around and platforming, but sometimes the platforming turns into gliding. It's kind of fun to fly through the earth, through like a field of flowers and grass as an ant. I like that tiny little perspective of things that aren't that big looking huge. The thing I don't like in the platforming that's definitely lacking is the camera. Sometimes it doesn't follow you well, and then when you try to line it up with your line of sight by pressing the L1 button, it takes a little too long a lot of the time. And outside of that, everything else is prototypical of your standard 3D or 2D platforming game, just collecting various things in the level floating. Like food for your colony, various little coins, little letters that spell out your name and give you a life. Just run-of-the-mill platforming stuff you do. Collecting Coins 101. I believe Spyro the Dragon teaches that course at NYU. I always get confused between A Bug's Life and Ants. They're both movies about bugs that literally came out in the same year. Not even bugs, they're both movies about ants. that came out in the same year, and they're big budget, like Hollywood cartoon CGI type movies. It's like, which one is which? Which one came first? Which one is the ripoff? I mean, one of them has to be riding the coattails of the other, right? There's no way it's a coincidence that two big budget Hollywood CGI cartoons that are almost identical came out in the same year. It's like, which one is the real bug cartoon? Who do I shoot? For me, these two cartoon movies just blur together. A lot of times, I get their stories like intertwined. Which one is which? Why couldn't Hollywood just make one Ant movie in 1998? Why are they playing with our minds? The only thing I kind of remember is the fact that A Bug's Life looks a little more professional. Like the CGI is slightly better in A Bug's Life than in Ants. And then also Ants has kind of a stupid name, like Ants with a Z. But then Ants had like more star power. Like they had Woody Allen, Sylvester Stallone, Jennifer Lopez, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman. These are like, even now these are huge A-list celebrities, but back then they were probably even bigger A-list celebrities, most of them. And then A Bug's Life, while it had much better CGI and graphics, the names weren't that big. I mean, they had Kevin Spacey. I think he won an Oscar. That's a big name. But then you had like Dave Foley. No one knows who Dave Foley is. Do you know Dave Foley? Yeah, of course you don't. Only like people that are into indie comedy know Dave Foley. He was part of the Kids in the Hall. Then you had Hayden Panettiere voicing one of the characters. I mean, she's, I guess, a big name, but not back then. She was like a kid. And then that's it. Everyone else is like maybe B-list celebrities, C-list celebrities. Those are the only like big names. You had also Julia Louis-Dreyfus voicing something, but I don't think that the celebrities were as big. And I think A Bug's Life, let me check. Yeah, A Bug's Life actually, it made a lot more money, twice as much money in the box office than Ants. And I think that's mostly because Ants just had a stupid name. Like A Bug's Life sounds like an epic cartoon that's cool for kids and adults, and Ants sounds like something that should go straight to VHS or DVD. Just because it's not even Ants with an S, it's Ants with a Z. It sounds like a garage band. Just why a Z? But is there a reason for Z? Is it because the main character's name is Z? I do actually care about one thing. Which one of them was the ripoff of the other one? Or was it just a huge coincidence that two big-budget CGI cartoon movies came out in the same year and they were both about ants? That can't be a coincidence. One of them has to be riding the coattails of the other. I just don't know which one. I mean, I'm assuming it's the one that came out first, but, you know, you never know, because maybe one started production first and ended production a little later. So it's a crapshoot. Who knows? You know what? Actually, I don't care. I don't care which one's the ripoff. And I don't think I've ever played an Ants game. I've seen a lot of A Bug's Life games. There's like A Bug's Life games on a lot of systems. There's even ROM hacks of A Bug's Life. Like it's Mario or Zelda. Like why ROM hack a game based on the movie? That's so random. But never really any... I want to check. I literally want to check right now. Is there an... Apparently, yes! There's apparently several Ants games, and, like, all the ones I'm seeing are racing. It's like Ants Racing, Ants Extreme Racing. What? Why is it racing? Why would they make a racing game based on ants? It's so random. I mean, I don't remember much from the cartoon, but was there a lot of racing in that cartoon? Was it like, a huge part of the cartoon, like Quidditch or pod racing? Now that's real ant racing. Well, there you go, mystery solved. There have been ants games, and a lot of them are racing for a completely unknown reason. Ants racing. Just, if you're gonna make ants racing games, just make every other movie-based games racing. An Officer and a Gentleman racing. A Clockwork Orange racing. Just take any movie and make a racing game about it. If we're gonna be completely random with game genres that are based on movies, why not? Let's get crazy with it. Kong Skull Island and Ghost in the Shell Racing. Logan Pod Racing for the Xbox One. Logan Pod Racing VR. Whoa, we went off track. Quick. What game am I reviewing again? Alright, A Bug's Life for the PS1. Not the best platformer ever. Definitely not like Spyro or anything. But it's fun. It has its charm, much like the cartoon. Thanks for watching. Support the game reviews on Patreon if you like them. Subscribe for more classic game reviews. Goodbye, my friends.